What's up, everybody? Welcome back to GVH Deals. This is the mid-June 2026 update, and you can see I've got some things I'm going to go through today, spend a little bit of time on each of these, and then move on to the rest of the month. So as you can see, I'm going to start with just a quick overview of the financials to see where we are. Because it's about halfway through June, you can see we've only brought in about $12 and we had some expenses on the other side. So both flipping cards for inventory costs as well as some operating expenses, which I'll go into a little bit more in the next section. So another negative month and not seeing much increases yet in sales. Part of this is because a lot of the plans are for football season and it is a slow season, but something that we will need to think about as we move forward here. So I mentioned I talk about where some of the costs came into play, and that's listed on here as COMC. So check out my cards, or initially it was check out my baseball cards, but now they do a lot more. This is something that I sort of forgot about back in March. I had sent in 100 cards. They charge about 65 cents per card to scan them, list them on their platform. They do cross-listing with eBay, etc. And like everything in the card world, they're quite backed up right now. So it took a few months, but my order did hit. I had to pay $65 for the 100 cards plus tax to get those input. But did give me, got some of my cards in here, had to go in and look at some of the comps and set some pricing. It's my cards again are a lot of 90s junk wax, so there wasn't a lot of high value in here based on their metrics, but it's another avenue. We'll see how it goes. I have already received a few offers, but I will say so far most of the offers have been pretty lowball, some 50% offers on things, and even when I counter, people reject them right away. So might not be anything for the long term, especially when it takes so long to get your cards scanned and up on their system. But it is something to have as an option and another thing to test out, especially with some of the things that aren't worth a lot of time. Although taking 65 cents per card, and then if I'm only making 75 and then there are some fees coming out of that, might not be the greatest, but just something as another option to keep in mind. So going back into some of the sales details, as I mentioned, we have made so far this month about $12. And if I go down to the ones in June, you'll see, again, one card was $4, another card was $4.50. The rest are in the dollar range or even under $1. So one of the things that I'm going to talk a little bit more about is trying to pivot, and it's been a good experience learning, practicing the shipping process with my old collection. But also, as I'm doing this more, I think I'm spending a lot of time, and I don't mind it, because once you scan something to see what the price is, it's not that much harder to get it listed. However, it has become something that is taking away from time I could be spent on other things, and I'll talk a little bit more about how I'm looking to pivot that going forward. Okay, so one of the places where I've spent a fair amount of time over the last couple of weeks, and actually, even for the last 3 months, as I've been doing this a little bit more actively than, I have in the past, is trying to see how I can leverage AI. And I know there's ways and there's different tools out there where you can use AI to scan your cards. You can even do it with most of the LLMs today. You can take a picture and ask it to help with centering and things like that. But the approach I'm taking really, outside of that and just kind of learning where it may not help, specifically with cards or markets. You have to be careful with markets because it does not always have the most recent data. Several times it's told me to look at someone like Drake May going into his second year and things like that, which we know are not true. So it makes me, somewhat hesitant to completely leverage it for things like market data, but it is another option. The way that I am really using it is to help a little bit more with a business strategy. And there's a lot of different things you can do. If you're not familiar with AI, you can ask it to be, my consultant that's an expert in flipping on eBay or that understands sports cards markets and things like that. And then provide more details about your situation to help develop a business strategy. So that's really the way that I've been doing it. And I mentioned, having lower value cards and spending a lot of time on them. I have asked Gemini, which is one, if you'd like to hear more about it, let me know, to help support me in this strategy. And again, this is just an example. You can do things differently, or it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole. Once you ask, it will ask you follow-up questions and you keep going back and forth, and sometimes you forget where you even started. But just to give you an idea, this is where I said, I'm not seeing as much benefit of using some of the low dollar cards. So I wanted to help me scale flipping sports business cards as a professional consultant with expertise reselling, guide me on the best ways to become profitable. And one of the things I've learned in this is you want to give as much information as possible, and really to help define all of the details so that you get back the best responses. So specifically I said I'm willing to do 5 to 10 hours a week, and I want a long-term strategy. I want to build this over time and take advantage of AI and things going forward. So you can see, again, the focus will be on systems, helps you understand where to spend time. Sourcing is important, listing, and then shipping. Some of what I'm doing here with sort of a content strategy. And then, I mentioned the market intelligence is a little bit questionable to me still, but I think it's still good. These things are evolving so quickly. The more you keep doing it, the better. You can get some help with your listing and things. I don't find that as much to be helpful so far because, frankly, eBay's got a lot of it built in, but it is something to have in mind. And then, asking as a consultant. So things like your liquidity, if it doesn't sell and move, reconsider the price. The 80-20 rule, 80% of your profit comes from 20% of your items. Something really to keep in mind. If you're spending a lot of time on the 80% that's not as profitable, might not be as helpful for the long term. And then your cash flow, making sure that you're reinvesting a certain amount and keeping things. For me right now, it's managing the inventory that I have that I don't want to list right now in the down season for football, but making sure I'm still keeping my eyes out for things that could be helpful and focus there. So, again, this is what I mentioned. Then it will ask a question, tailor the next phase. What's the budget? What are you looking at? So, this comes down again to, I said a couple $100 between now and the season, splitting between PSA, quarterback premiums, arbitrage. So there's a lot of different things. Where I am spending most of my time is on my 90s cards. Honestly, because they all are mostly in the $1 to $2 range, it's taking a lot of mind share. And I want to just get those cleared out, especially now in the down season. Whether I flip them in lots now or later as we get closer to the season when there's a little more attention, it's just going to be important to get those kind of cleaned out of my office and something that I can move on from and focus on an actual flipping strategy of higher value cards going forward. And then sort of the financial approach here. Again, this says 48-hour rule. I think it actually says if you don't sell within 14 days, relist it. So finding some of these things, you can put them into play. The platform fee, make sure you're calculating the profits and the shipping and everything that goes along with it, and then reinvesting your funds. So those are the types of things. I'm going to keep refining this. A couple other quick things. So this is what I mentioned, looking to sell more $10 cards instead of $1 cards. It just doesn't seem to be a good use of my time. This is the other thing that I wanted to show, because it's in the Google ecosystem. You can set this up to save your notes in Google Keep. If you're doing things in AI and in the chat, sometimes it's hard to remember where to go back to. This is Google Keep on the desktop, so you can see a lot of the things I was mentioning there with little check boxes and everything. It also does push it to mobile. So if you're on your phone, which is where I have a lot of the conversations as well, you can do it on your phone, you can push it to keep, and then you can open it up either on your phone and your desktop and come back to it. So that's really, like I said, it's using the AI more as a consultant and asking questions, input, leveraging the knowledge that it can scrape off the web and from its training to help you build out your own strategies. You know, like I said, it is important to make sure you're giving it as much information in your context. You know, if it thinks you're a millionaire and you're buying, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cards, it's going to give you a different answer than if you say, I've got 500 or $1,000 that I'm looking to reinvest here. So that's something to keep important as you think about leveraging AI. So that was really the focus of what I wanted to spend time on today. I think it'll evolve over time. Let me know if you'd like to hear more. I did spend a lot of time making sure that my Google accounts were connected so that I can do this with my sheet here that has the different information is all connected through the Google ecosystem. So there's ways that you can use the AI to now analyze your numbers and different things, which will tie it back to that strategy. And as I mentioned, using things like Google Keep and connecting over there. So that's been a lot of it, is documenting, figuring out my strategy, really doing this now in the down season. Like I said, June, even somewhat of July will be a little bit slow, and then football season will start picking up, which is where a big part of my focus is. The other thing that I've done in that strategy is thinking about, with the changes in PSA, not grading as much, but still wanting to keep that pipeline moving. So I will be doing some of that as well going forward, but keeping track of the time where I should focus, consulting on things from a business perspective and building that out. So that's really been the focus, as well as what I mentioned with the 90s cards. I need to get them scanned, see what might be an option to flip for $10 or more, and the rest I'm going to break up, sort into lots. I've got a lot of different quarterbacks, and I've been trying to sell some lots, but honestly, it's 15 to 20 cards, and it's not enough in that era for the money and the shipping costs. So I'm going to look to either add, 50 to 100 per person, or bundle them in lots of 50 to 100 or more, so that it'll make it a better opportunity for people that are interested in that, especially if they're going to pay $5 or $6 shipping. So that's it so far for the week. I will drop a quick video of the cards that I did pick up in the last week so that you can see what those are. But beyond that, hit the like button, subscribe, drop some notes in the comments so that I understand, did you want to hear more about AI? Did you want to hear more about some of the specific strategies? And I will look forward to seeing you in a future video. What's up? Here's some cards that I picked up this week in the hopes of holding for football season and flipping when it gets a little bit closer and season hype starts to pick up. First here, we've got the turn of the century Tyler Warren autographed. This is of $4.99. This is one of the ones in my consulting with AI came up as getting some hype in OTAs and a big opportunity in Indy for him to be a star. And I just like the looks of this card, so hopefully this one turns out well. Next up, we've got a Emeka Egbuka Optic Preview red and green, PSA 9. Another one liking the red and green, kind of matching the Buccaneers red and the number on his jersey. Great rookie year. Hopefully he'll pick it up again this year and take it to the next level, especially with Mike Evans moving on. I think this is a good opportunity for the Buccaneers and Egbuka. And then last but not least, this is a GMA 9. Didn't realize this when I got it, but it's a really cool card. The clearly Donruss, so it might be kind of hard to see on here, but it's actually clear, and then just kind of the blue in the inside. So a little bit different looking card, kind of the shadow on the back, but another good pickup. And Bryce Young, another quarterback who has been in the league for a couple years and
could be turning it on and getting it hot in Carolina. So we'll see how they play out, and more to come. We'll see when they get sold how I end up doing.